Hi, it's Peter with RL Property Management, the only management company in Columbus, started and run by engineers. We're back with episode 2 of our How to Pick a Property Management Company series. So to review, the first episode was determining your needs, and on this episode we're going to be discussing how to evaluate the marketplace. And the remaining 3 steps in the 5-step process, which are going to be covered in future videos, are research the top 10 companies and narrow down, call 5 companies, and then finally meet with 1 or 2. So again, today we're going to be covering evaluating the marketplace. So we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on how to understand the rental management marketplace where you live and how you should be reviewing and analyzing the property management companies local to you. So the first thing you want to do is create a list of every professional property management company you can find that services your geographical area. So if you live in a major city, this will be pretty easy. If you live in a smaller city or a suburban area, it may take a little bit more research and digging. But the general idea is you want to get a list together of every company, and then from there you can start the process of narrowing it down. But first you need a complete list. So where do you go? How do you find a list of all the property management companies? Unfortunately, there's no single directory you can go to that will have a complete list. So I have a few resources you can use. Now bear in mind, what you really want to work with is a professional property management company. You don't want to work with a part-time realtor or a group that just kind of does property management on the side. Property management is a very intense activity. There's a lot going on, there's a lot to it, laws are changing, tenants are causing problems, there's very special accounting rules that are specific to property management. So you really want to work with a company whose primary focus is property management. So while you're pulling this list together, try to get a sense of companies that are really 100% focused, or at least primarily focused on property management. I wouldn't even bother adding to the list just some realtor who says they'll manage a couple properties for you. You want people who, when you go to their website, it's crystal clear from the very first homepage, this is what they do, they manage property. So as you're gathering this list together, here's a few tips for you. Look for an active presence. You don't want to work with a company that's sort of on the decline or not really focused on keeping current. So you want to look for active blogs, active social media pages, websites that have been recently updated with active rental listings. So here's a list of places you can look for the names of management companies that you can research. First, you could just try popping into Google your city or neighborhood and then the words property management. And that's going to bring back a list of websites, and of course you should look through that list. Those are probably some good names to add. Make sure you also click on the ads. If you see a company actively advertising for property management, that probably means they're obviously a real company. They're willing to spend money to gain new customers, and that's a good indication that they're a thriving, growing business. You could also search the website biggerpockets.com. BiggerPockets is probably the largest real estate investor marketplace or online group, and they have a really popular podcast as well. So if you go on BiggerPockets, not only can you just put a post up there asking, hey, who are the property managers in your city, but you can also search. They have a marketplace where you can search for services, and so you can actually drill down and search for property management specific to your city, and you'll see if anyone is advertising for that service. I also recommend checking with the National Association of Residential Property Managers, also known as NARPM. So if you go to narpm.org, it's a free tool. You can search and filter by city, and you'll get a list of property managers that are members of NARPM in your city. NARPM is nothing more than a trade organization. It's kind of like the National Association of Realtors, but specific for property managers. So if you find a property management company that's a member of NARPM, that means they're willing to pay money annually to be a part of a professional group, and they actually are required to take an extra ethics course and adhere to a higher set of standards than just the the state regulations. And so it's not a surefire thing, but it's a good sign that a company you find on NARPM is going to be taking themselves a little bit more seriously. You could also check with realtors, friends, and family, ask for referrals. That's a tried and true method and it still works. And then finally, I recommend checking with your real estate lawyer, your CPA, and your banker. Talk to those three professionals, ask them if they know who their clients are using to manage properties. You'll probably get some good names from there. Okay, so once you have that list, again, you're going to want to discard anyone who's part-time, doesn't have an updated presence, or just doesn't seem like their focus is property management for reasons already discussed. Okay, the next step is to become familiar with the jargon that is specific to your area. So as an example, there's a concept in property management where you pay a fee at most property management companies to place a tenant. So every time they find a new tenant for you and sign a lease, you're going to have to pay a fee. Some people call that a leasing fee. Some people call it a letting fee. Some people call it a placement fee. That's just an example of the jargon that could be specific to your geographic area. So you're going to want to kind of become familiar with that. And while you're at it, start to become familiar with the pricing that's common in your area. So a lot of times the property management companies in a specific state or city are going to have similar pricing structures. They're not all going to be the same. In fact, no two will be identical, but they're going to have some themes that will carry through. And as you become familiar with the common pricing in your area, you're going to be more educated and better able to have a productive discussion with someone that you're interested in interviewing for management. Some other examples of things that could be consistent in your area in terms of pricing could be things like how evictions are handled and priced, who keeps the late fees, does that go to the owner or the broker? Okay, next I recommend researching your state's requirements for property management. So every state has different requirements and regulations around property management. Some have none at all, some require similar licensing to realtors, and some have extra special requirements above and beyond that. So do a little digging, do a little Googling on your state and trying to understand what is the requirement and make sure that anyone you interview meets that requirement. It should go without saying you want a company that's licensed or registered or whatever the appropriate terminology is that's required in your state. Most states will provide a way to look up someone's license. So just because someone says, oh yeah, we're registered with the state, we're great. Don't take their word for it. Go ahead and look them up. You'll be able to find how long they've been in operation and maybe even some other details like the number of licensed agents that are working at that brokerage. Okay, a couple more tips. You're going to want to get a sense for how big the companies are that you're looking into. Some people are more comfortable working with a larger company. That can come with consistent systems and processes and other advantages. And other people are more comfortable working with a small company. They like the personal touch and some of the other benefits that come with a small company. You can get a feel for how big the company is without calling them first, just by looking at the number of rental listings that they have. In fact, you can learn a lot about a company by looking at their rental listings. You can take a look and see how your property may be advertised. Do they have professional photos? Do they have detailed descriptions? Is there an ability to schedule a showing or apply online? And the number of listings that they have is going to be a really good proxy for how large they are. So naturally, if you have 500 units under management at any given time, even if you only have 5% vacancy, you're going to have a lot of units available for rent. And vacancy numbers are going to be relatively consistent across management companies, so that would imply the number of available units is going to be an approximation of how large the company is. So with those tips in mind, go ahead and do some research in your area and compile a list of the 10 companies, the 10 best companies that you can find in your area. And then on our next video, we're going to be discussing how you can take that list of 10 and begin to get a sense of who you'd like to work with as you narrow the list down. So thanks for watching today. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Bye.